All right, how you guys doing today? We about to hop into a nice little discussion. First things first, though, make sure you like that video, hit the exit full screen, scroll a bit, like it, full screen and back up. You feel me? So, my friend sent me a video, and this is the same friend, the second friend, my associate friend, who I have mentioned in the my friend is a pantheist video, right? So he sends me this video because this is like a maybe even a week long discussion slash debate at this point about religion, or at least me getting his thoughts on religion. So it's just been a week long discussion kind of thing. And he sends me this video. So I'm going to play it and then we're going to talk about it.
You've probably heard that Eve was formed from one of Adam's ribs, but the reason behind that translation choice might be misogyny.
Wait, what?
Yeah, in the Bible, there's actually a proper anatomic word for a rib bone. It's the Aramaic Allah, and we see it in places like Daniel, where a bear has 3 rib bones in his mouth. But in Genesis, when Eve is being formed, it says that God took a selah from Adam. And this word is never translated as rib anywhere else in the Bible. In all 40 other instances, it's either translated as half or side. Like in Exodus 37, the Ark of the Covenant has 2 separate sides, or the 2 sides on the split door that leads into Solomon's temple. But if you're interested in promoting a worldview in which women are subordinate to men, it doesn't really help you to have an origin story where Eve comes from an equal part of Adam. You kind of like the vibe of Eve coming from this tiny, insignificant rib.
So he sends me this video kind of as a, gotcha moment. And I say, hold up. Wait a second, right? So let's check it out. So the verse in question here is Genesis 2:21. And the Lord God caused a deep sleep to fall upon Adam. And as he slept, he took one of his ribs, closed up the flesh thereof. So we're a Blue Letter Bible, great study tool. Oh, y'all can't see it now, whatever. We're at blueletterbible.com. I highly recommend. I had this tools button. It pops up with the, if it wants to load like it was just open, pops up with the Hebrew or Aramaic, whatever word, Masoretic text, whatever language they wrote in, right? You can also hit Bibles, shows you the different translation, cross references, sees different verses that go with the commentaries on the verse, dictionaries, and miscellaneous. I've never used that tab. Anyway, so we scroll down here. One of his ribs, Selah. He wasn't lying, right? But it's of his ribs, right? We see one of his ribs. If it means side, one side, maybe. How would he take half? You know what I'm saying? I don't think he could close the flesh up of half of somebody. It wouldn't be closing the flesh up then. It would be literally duplicating that half of the person. But, let's see, right? We're going to open that in another tab. Then we're also just going to close this and look at the rest of it, right? And the rib, let's check this out. The rib, still Selah, right? Which the Lord God had taken from man, made he a woman, and brought her unto the man. Took one of his ribs, closed the flesh up. So we look at Selah, or it's pronounced Selah, I'm sorry. Right, so we see side, chamber, boards, corners, rib 2 times, and that's both the times we just saw. Another, beams, halting, leaves, planks. Side, rib or beam. Rib of man, rib of a hill, side, chambers, planks, rib, plank, board, leaves, side. So when you see it's used, write the Strong's definition: a rib as curved, literally of the body, or figuratively of a door, a leaf, hence a side, literally of a person, figuratively of an object, or the sky, a quarter, architecturally, especially a floor, timber, or a plank, single or collective, or flooring, beam, board, chamber, corner, leaf, plank, rib, side, chamber, right? So when I brought this up to him, right, I said the definition could be rib, side, whatever. And even if you wanted to use it architecturally, it's rib, plank, or board, right? And as you can see down here in the Brown Diver Briggs lexicon, ribs of cedar, planks, boards, plural, ribs of cedar, planks, plural. And up here, it could be a plank or a board, right? So what would a plank of the side be? It's not talking about the whole door of a man, the side of a man, even if you wanted to take it like that, right? Because when I talked about the abortion issue and how it says we are given, he was made a body can be one or multiple people making up a bigger body, right? A body of people. One or many things, just like this could be one or many things, but that body can be one or many things. Therefore, a rib, a plank, can be one plank. What in a body would resemble a plank? And I don't want to say that, but for structural security, a rib, right? So I tell this to him. And then we go to Daniel. Behold, another beast, a second to a bear, raised itself up on one side, and it had 3 ribs in the mouth of it, between the teeth of it. And they said thus unto it, arise, devour much flesh, right? So we go into here. Oh, the bear raised up itself on one side. This word also means side, I noticed, and it's completely different word, so let's check that out. Shetar, one side, used one time, a side. Side, half of a beast in vision, only used once. A side, side of anything. Why wasn't this word used, right? Because this is literally referring to the side of a bear. Like to a bear, and raised itself up on one side, right? Let's look at the verse again. Behold, another beast, a second, like to a bear, and it raised itself on one side, had 3 ribs in his mouth. 3 ribs. Allah. So let's check this word out, right? Allah, ribs, one time. Only used one time, corresponding to a rib, right? And we look at this number, corresponding to H63, or 86763. Selah. What number? Where's that number? Oh, y'all can see this? H6763. We go down here. Biblical Hebrew. This one. Biblical Hebrew. The older one, right? Chald. Then behold, incorrectly starts to mean canine teeth or tusks, but incorrectly understand it to mean canine teeth or tusks. Only used one time. And we can see up here, root word, etymology. Just in case you don't know what etymology means, because I didn't, I just had to make sure we were going the right direction. The study of the origin of words and in the way in which their meanings have changed throughout history. The origin of the word and its historical development of its meaning, right? So derivative, development, origin, source, right? So etymology is how a word changes over time. The root word corresponds to this. So Allah, the word for rib, corresponds to this word, meaning that they probably didn't have a word for the rib. And then over time, they said, all right, let's make a specific word for the rib, right? Because I guess at the time of Adam, nobody was getting chopped open and people were seeing the ribs. So as time went on and medical practice probably got bigger, or somebody got chopped in half, they said, oh, look at those things. Let's call those Allahs. So anyway, you go back to here and you see, oh, this one also has an etymological whatever history. Let's check that out. And this word means to halt, to limp, to be lame, to limp, or to be lame. Primitive root, probably to curved, used as a denominative from H6763. I wonder, because this word wasn't used until later part in Genesis. It was already established, but the number is earlier. You know, it's 3 spaces earlier than the other one, right? This is 6763. This one is 6760. Regardless, primitive root, probably to curve. So this word, its etymology came about from curving something, changed to halt. Probably closer to what we would call curbing, right? If you curb something, you're stopping it. But anyway, so we can see that the root word from the rib was from the earlier word meaning a side, but also referring to a rib, and ribs are curved. So there's that, because he originally had brought that up as kind of a, like I said, a gotcha moment, and he even furthered his point of, see, I would like to learn Aramaic or Hebrew or whatever and read the Bible for himself in that native language, but there's no need. We have that done. And then while looking for the video, because I didn't want to send it to myself from my phone to my computer, I found this nice response video to the original guy, who I think breaks it down a little bit further than I can, and maybe will make it a bit more easy to understand.
Eve was formed from one of Adam's ribs, but the reason behind that translation choice might be misogyny.
Let's see what the misogynistic early 17th century had to say about this. The woman was made of a rib out of the side of Adam, not made out of his head to rule over him, nor out of his feet to be trampled upon by him, but out of his side to be equal with him, under his arm to be protected, and near his heart to be beloved. It's just dripping with misogyny.
In the Bible, there's actually a proper anatomic word for a rib bone. It's the Aramaic Allah, and we see it in places like Daniel, where a bear has 3 rib bones in his mouth.
I mean, the Blade Runner music is a dead giveaway, but it's not found in places like Daniel. It's only found in Daniel. And the book of Daniel is philologically different than the rest of the Old Testament. Trying to relate words in the book of Daniel, especially in later chapters of Daniel, to the rest of the Old Testament would be like us trying to take our modern day vocabulary and relating it to King James English.
Genesis, when Eve is being formed, it says that God took a Selah, from Adam. And this word is never translated as rib anywhere else in the Bible. In all 40 other instances, it's either translated as half or side.
Except when it's not. In 1 Kings 6:15, it uses the word twice, cedar boards and cypress boards in the CSB. It can also be translated as cedar ribs and cypress ribs. And if you're saying that doesn't make a whole lot of sense in reference to a temple, just look up architectural ribs or building ribs on Google. It's a thing. Furthermore, if you take a look at the Septuagint, which is the Greek translation of the Old Testament, which modern Bible translators rely on heavily to understand how to translate that Old Testament into English, it uses the word plura. Plura is also a little bit ambiguous because it can mean the side or it can mean a rib. Furthermore, whenever we're talking about body parts, either in the New or Old Testament, it can be difficult to understand what the writer is actually talking about. For example, where did Jesus have his nails driven through? Was it his hand, when in his palm? Well, the Greek word can either mean palm or it can mean wrist, because this is referred to as the hand. People in antiquity weren't anatomically concise. Furthermore, the root word of Selah is Salah, which means to curve. And furthermore, when Adam sees woman, he says, "This is at last bone of my bone and flesh of my flesh." And in the midst of Genesis, where everything is made after its own kind, it would be a little bit weird for Adam to say something about woman that wasn't after his own kind. Meaning the fact that Adam starts with, "This is bone of my bone," is a context clue here that Eve was made from a rib. Is it 100% for certain? No, I have some translations that translate it as side. To say there's some misogynistic conspiracy? Come on.
So just for even more context about what he said about Daniel being older or newer than Genesis. Genesis was written by Moses, most likely, right? Very, very most likely, around 1400 BCE. Well, BC. I don't know why they say BCE when talking about freaking Moses, bro. Anyway, and then Daniel was written 164, right? So that is over 1,200 years worth of language adaptation, right? Just go back to, you can even call it a bit earlier, go back to 800 AD and think about how they were speaking English. Shoot, even go back to the 90s. We don't speak like that. We got plenty of new words every single day being created, new slang, new whatever, and so it's good. It's good that language evolves like that. And then that one quote that he brought up, the woman was made of the rib out of the side of Adam, not made out of his head to rule over him, nor his feet to be trampled upon by him, but out of his side to be equal with him, under his arm to be protected, and near his heart to be beloved. I didn't know who Matthew Henry was, so I looked him up, 1600 to 17, whatever. British nonconformist minister and author. He had some famous quotes, I suppose, but yeah, I don't know the credibility of him when it comes to this, but I will say that in the New Testament it was recorded by Jesus. He had equality with God, but didn't count it as something to be taken advantage of. We went over that like 2 videos ago or whatever, right? Saying he was equal to God. It's just, he accepted his place as the subservient servant to God, just like the women are supposed to be ruled over by the men. And then there's that Genesis verse that talks about a woman wants to rule over her husband, but that's not our place. So you can argue about with that. But at the end of the day, they are equal to us. That's what the New Testament preaches. So even if it was misogynistic, Christianity is not as a whole misogynistic. Nor do I think that was even like because of the rib. I really like the Matthew Henry standpoint. I don't know how true this is because, he wasn't like whatever. I don't know his credibility. But I really like this, made out of his side to be equal with him, under his arm to be protected, and near his heart to be beloved. And in the New Testament, we're told husbands are supposed to love their wives. Wives submit to their husbands, but they are still equal. All right, that's going to be the end of the video. Hope you guys have yourselves fantastic the rest of your day. Peace.